All right, everyone. It's Doug the Dog Guy, owner and founder of Bad to the Bone Pet Care, and I am here with the amazing Morgan Weber. Good
Hey,
morning,
Doc.
ma'am. How are
Good
you?
morning. Good. How are you? It's a little cold here. I think I'd rather be where you are today instead of in the northern plains. But other than that, it's pretty good.
Yeah. You said it feels like it's -3 there in South Dakota. I can't even imagine that as a Florida boy.
No, it's pretty cold, and it's going to get colder soon. So I'm not looking forward to that. This is why we in the northern half of the country go visit, Florida in in the winter.
Yep. Life is good down here. So, you are the owner and founder of Lucky Pup Adventures in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You are
Yes.
the owner of Memory Flame Candles, and you are the 2022 Pet Sitter of the Year, chosen by Pet Sitters International. So, you are just covering the pet care industry. It's so impressive. We met like a year ago at the
Mhm.
Texas Pet Sitters Conference, and I've just really grown to truly look up to you, and you really became one of my idols. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, and I can't wait to hear more about your journey.
Oh, well, Doug, you're gonna make me cry at the beginning of this episode, you know? And I just one of the things I loved about going to the Texas Pet Sitters Conference is I met so many amazing people, and you being among those people. But I just think that the pet care industry it's like no other. We're just such a special group, and we have some really amazing people who are in this industry with us.
Absolutely, I couldn't have said it better myself. I feel like I truly found my people within the pet care industry.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, I would say, and maybe this is just general, like for everybody on the planet, but I think so many of us kind of struggle to find the group, like maybe you didn't find like your group like in high school or if you went to college or in your first career. Like pet sitting for a lot of people isn't always their first career, and I do feel like yes, same thing. I didn't always feel like I fit in, or like what I was doing before was a good fit for me. And yeah, I love being a pet sitter.
Yeah, me too. Before we get too far into everything, I would love to remind everyone to smash the subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment down below. It really helps these videos be seen by a wider audience and just really helps the channel so much. Um, so, tell us a little bit about what Lucky Pup Adventures looks like today.
Yeah. So today there's 8 of us. So my husband and I are full time in the business. And I've been full time since 2018. My husband joined us this year full time. And we've
Awesome.
got, yeah, so then there's 6 employees. And we do pet sitting, we do dog walking. Um, I'd say about half of what we do, I will be honest, I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but I know at least pre-COVID, half of what we did was dog walking and half was pet sitting. And I'd say it's probably pretty close. It's probably shifted a little bit more towards pet sitting lately, just because people's schedules changed in COVID. Not as many people are traveling for work and things like that. So yeah, that's about where we are. And we have a wide variety of pet types that we take care of. Most it's mostly dogs. We've had a lot of new cat clients lately, which is really awesome. We take care of chickens, we take care of, bunnies, guinea pigs, all of the things, reptiles. And then my husband Austin also does aquarium maintenance. So we have quite a few aquarium clients as well.
Yeah, he spoke at the PSI conference about taking care of an aquarium, and I really learned a lot there.
That's awesome. Yeah, he loves talking about aquariums, and same thing. So we're kind of funny. He went to school to be an engineer. I went to school to be an architect, and here we are in the pet sitting world. And he really loves fish. We have a ginormous aquarium in our basement. It's 400 gallons, which is unreasonably large, but it's pretty awesome. And yeah, he loves talking about fish and fish puns and all of that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. So I know I've heard your story, but for people that don't know your story, tell us about how and why you transitioned from being an architect to pet sitting and dog walking.
Yeah. So a lot of people have this impression that like architects make boatloads of money. And maybe you can if you own a firm or, you've been in it for a really long time. But when I was first out of school, I was making $12 an hour working in an architecture firm. And that's just
Wow.
not enough. Yeah, it's not enough to live on. And so um, I was like, hey, we've got to do something else to help pay the bills. And I had a coworker who we ended up getting a dog from his friend's dad. It's kind of like a whole story there. But he was like, hey, our dog's name was Casey. He's like, Casey's dad used to, watch our dogs. And unfortunately, Casey's dad passed away. And that's how we got Casey. But he's like, hey, Casey's dad used to watch our dogs. Like, would you mind? Like, would you take our dog while we're out of town? I was like, well, sure. Why not? I guess we'll try it. And we just kind of fell in love with it. And he's like, well, would you consider doing this like as a business? Like, because he was really entrepreneurial, and I had never thought about owning a business at that point. And he kind of gave me the little push, and we said, sure, why not? So we started doing drop-in pet sitting visits for people, and we would, do it around our normal jobs. I kind of worked 8 to 5, and Austin worked, kind of like 11 to, 7, 8, 9 at night. And so between the two of us, we could really cover all of the visits that we needed to do. And it was also a good way to help pay the bills. And even as my architecture career progressed, we kept pet sitting because it was just so much fun. And we eventually got to the point where I was at my career where I was like, okay, hey, I'm finally making good money doing this job. I need to start taking my licensing exams, because if you're a registered architect, you guys take all these exams. And I was like, okay, I either need to commit to this architecture career and, do my exams and do the whole thing, or I need to not, because we were walking dog, like I was out walking dogs on my lunch break. And, it got to the point where I was like, I can't do both of these. And we picked dog walking. So it's been a lot of fun. But it's nowhere that I ever thought I was ever going to be. I did Future Business Leaders of America in high school purely because I wanted something fun to do with friends. I told everyone I was like, I'm never going to be a business owner. Like, I'm never going to do those things. And now here I am as a business owner of multiple businesses and kind of a serial entrepreneur in a way. But we've just had so much fun with it. So yeah, I never thought I would be here. Like, I thought I'd be, wearing a suit in an architecture office, and I'm in hiking boots and I have a favorite leash. Like, it's not where I thought I was going to be.
Yeah, it's amazing how there's such a like a natural progression with your story and with a lot of the people in our industry. I think a lot of us never saw ourselves becoming small business owners and doing what we're doing, but we find so much joy and fulfillment in it that I can't imagine myself doing anything else at this point.
Yeah, when I was kind of growing up, and I would hear people say like, "Oh, I could never imagine myself doing anything else." I'd kind of look around and I go, "Well, I could." Like, this isn't like, I don't feel like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. But now that I've found pet sitting and I've found being this role as a business owner, I was like, yeah, I can't imagine going back and working in an office like for somebody else. Like, it's just not. It feels so natural, and it's such a
Yeah.
weird industry. If you think about, like, you tell people, ask, oh, what do you do? I was like, well, I have keys to people's houses, and I meet them once and then I never see them again, except I'm in their house all the time and I'm walking their dog. And it's just such a weird, I'm sure you hear this all the time too, Doug, where people say, "Oh, you do that for like your whole job?" And I was like, "Yeah, and I've got other people who work for me who also do it for their full job." Like, it's just it's not something people think of as necessarily a full profession. And that's one thing that I love about what some of these organizations are doing, and what you're doing as well, is just helping people realize that like this is a true profession, and it's full of people who are professionals, and we take this very seriously, and we can have a lot of fun. But at the same time, we are taking it very seriously, and we get paid for it. Like, we can actually dedicate our lives to this.
Yeah, I mean, you hit some huge points there. When I started pet sitting and dog walking back in 2013, I didn't know of anyone doing it professionally. There weren't any major companies. This was before Rover and Wag were big. And I remember I had been pet sitting and dog walking about 10 months, and I was making enough money where I could go full time. And I remember sitting in my living room thinking, I am going to be the first ever full time pet sitter and dog walker. Little did I know there were already $1 million companies all around the country, but I didn't know it. I thought I was going to be the first ever.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about it as being a full-time thing. Like we were just, doing it on the side and we grew a lot more slowly, like in terms of like I think you had a much more like exponential growth and we've just been kind of on this like steady incline. And it wasn't until so I also started in 2013. And it wasn't until 2018 that I went full time. And that was also very scary. Like for a lot of us, you know, income can be really up and down, especially like where I live, people cancel a lot because like their airplane gets canceled and they can't go on their trip. Like we've had that today. I was texting clients at 7 in the morning, like, hey, my flight got canceled. Maybe I can fly out tomorrow, but maybe I can't. That kind of stuff happens a lot here. So, income can be really inconsistent. And for a lot of people, that's really scary to say, okay, I'm going to quit my full-time job or I'm going to quit my part-time job and I'm going to solely, rely on my pet sitting income or my dog walking income and try to make this a full-time thing. Like that can be really hard for a lot of people.
It was terrifying for me. I mean, I had nightmares about it for years, and
Mhm.
my first couple months, I would make like $100 one month and like $200 the next month, and then when I finally decided to go full time, I had gotten this one client, and the entire plan, my entire business plan, was based off of this one client staying consistent. And of course they didn't. Of course they ended up moving away just a couple of months later. That's, the nature of what we do sometimes.
Mhm.
But I learned a lot of really hard lessons. I mean, I had my lights shut off because I didn't have enough money to pay my light bill,
Mhm.
and but that really put the fuel to the fire for me to get out there and get out of my comfort zone. And I was so shy, I was so sheltered as a child, and I was always known as the kid that never said anything, and man, once you have your lights shut off and you're relying on yourself for your income, I was out there walking the sidewalks with flyers in hand, walking up to complete strangers because that was my only option. It was either that or go get another minimum wage job, and I just wasn't willing to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing when you kind of force yourself to do something. And we've kind of had, I'm sure other pet sitters can relate to this, but when I was trying to make that jump between, okay, am I going to leave this full time, like at that point, I thought my professional career, right? Like as an architect, am I going to leave this? I'm going to leave my 401k plan. I'm going to leave my, paid health insurance. I'm going to leave like I had amazing coworkers and I had an amazing boss at that time. And so that was also another reason that it made it very hard for me to leave because where I was, they were great to me. It's a very comfortable, wonderful place. Like I'm still in touch with them. Like we hang out and things, but it made it hard to leave. But at the same time, I was running myself absolutely ragged. And I would come home and be so exhausted. I would just like cry in my car in the driveway and just be like, how much longer can I do this? How much longer can I be working, 80 plus hours a week, running all around, never having a day off. And, it took a while to learn those lessons. I still did that for quite a while, even after I went full time in my business. But it got to the point where I was like, I can't do all of the things. Like I am so exhausted and I'm not enjoying life like I feel like I should be. And so let's do something different. And so we decided I was going to quit my job and I'd already like made all of the plans and like maybe 2 or 3 days before I was going to quit my job, I told my parents and I said, hey, by the way, I'm gonna put in my notice this week. And my mom was like, you're gonna do what? And I was like, I'm quitting my job, mom. And my mom grew up in the 60s and the 70s. And, she was a professional woman and all of her, her friends were professional women. And for her, she's like, I worked so hard and my generation worked so hard for you to go and like have this professional job in the marketplace. And here you are, you're going to go walk dogs. And I was like, Yes, I am. And, it was also a good lesson for them because in the months afterwards, like I just felt so much lighter and so much happier. And, I was kind of telling them about this. And one of my dad had a friend who, followed up with him. He's like, "Oh, hey, like what's Morgan up to?" And, the my dad told him, and the friend was like, "Well, but is she happy?" And I was like, "Oh," like that was just such a like a relief moment, because again, pet sitting was not necessarily on this radar of a professional career. And, for somebody to say, well, but is she happy? Like, is she enjoying what she's doing? And that I think is something that, our generation and the generations that are coming up behind us are realizing that that is the key. Because if you're not enjoying what you're doing, like, kind of what's the point? Why, especially as a business owner, if you're putting this much time and sweat and pain and risk into something and it's not making you happy, then why are we doing it? Because there's a lot easier jobs out there than being a pet sitter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Drop the mic after that.
Like,
So
oh, like I remember like when I was with we had this old Newfoundland client and I loved her so much. She was just the sweetest dog. But one day, and she had free access to the whole main floor of their house. And one day I showed up and she had some tummy troubles out of both ends. And then
oh
she like
no.
laid in it. And so I showed up and and it was like November and I had to like give this dog like a bath outside because she
Oh
was too
no.
big to fit like in a shower or a bathtub. And it was gross. Right. And I was like, I love my job. I love my job. I love my job. But I mean, there's a lot of gross things that happen when you're in care of profession of any kind. And,
Yep.
there's gotta be enough good in your day to make it worth cleaning up accidents and, schedule changes and all of those things.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had a similar situation where I was walking this golden retriever every day, and her name was Bella, and she was one of my first like daily clients, and I loved her so much. And I showed up to do the midday walk, and she had had just explosive diarrhea in her crate to the point to where it filled up the tray in the bottom of
Oh,
her crate and was spilling over onto the white carpet
oh
around the
no.
crate. And of course, I open the crate and she comes running out. Now there's paw prints everywhere, and she's getting it on me. And it was like,
It's like on
but
the
it,
walls, on the
yep,
carpet. Yeah. Yeah.
it was totally one of those moments where I was like, okay, is this worth it? Is this something that I'm gonna do long term? And I had to cancel the next walk after that because it took
Mhm.
me so long to get her cleaned up, and I ended up taking her to the vet, and she's still a client to this day. That was 6 7 years ago, and I'm so glad I made the decision to stick with it, and we do
Yes.
have those days where we ask ourselves those questions, but the beauty and the fulfillment and the joy that we find with these pets and their families and everything that we do, just it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a similar moment when I was digging a poop accident out of the bottom of a Roomba that
Oh
had like
no.
tracked around the house. So not only did I have to like search the house to find out where the Roomba had been, then I also had to like clean up the Roomba because it's going to get, super gross by the time the people come
Oh
home.
no.
And I was same thing. I was like, I could be in a nice warm office right now. And here I am scooping poop out of a Roomba. So yeah, if anyone's wondering, it does happen. It's it's not just an internet lore. It
Yep.
does actually happen. But yeah,
The
and I think
memes exist for a reason.
the memes exist for a reason. Yeah. And I think, Doug, something that you're really passionate about, and I'm also passionate about that I think we have in common is wanting people to enjoy the business side of being a pet sitter. Cause I think there's a lot of reasons why people quit being a pet sitter. And one of them is, yeah, sometimes it can be kind of gross, or sometimes, your clients can be difficult to work with because people are people and people are complicated. Um, but also there's the business side. And if, someone doesn't have a business background coming in, or maybe doesn't know where to look to learn how to be a business owner, that can be a really big challenge. And that's something that you and I have talked about before, of just being really passionate about wanting to make sure that people can if they want to do this full time, that they can do that because they know how to make it work and make it be a business for them.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that has become so meaningful to me, when, I watched my business go from 6 figures to 0 when we locked down, for COVID, and I spent a couple weeks in bed crying because it was, this business is my baby. And I had learned everything the hard way. I'd put blood, sweat, and tears into building this business, having no real help, no real resources that I knew of at the time. And
Mhm.
and watching it crash and burn like that, I just had no idea what life held for me next. And that's why kind of coming out of COVID, I started posting these YouTube videos, just not knowing what the YouTube videos would lead to. All I could think was, I need people to know what I've gone through, and I need
Mhm.
people to know that there is a way. There is a way to do this, and learn from my mistakes. Like I said, I've learned everything the hard way. I've made every mistake in the book. So let me tell you about that so that you don't have to make those same mistakes.
Mhm.
And there's so many great resources out there for people that want to build a business now. We have Pet Sitters International, we have the National Association of Professional Pet Sitters. There's great pet sitting groups where we can learn from each other on Facebook. There's podcasts like Pet Sitter Confessional, and there's business coaches, and your local chamber of commerce and SCORE. They have great resources. And that's I'm so passionate about, like, if you are out there and you want to make this a business and you want to go full time, reach out to me, reach out to Morgan, and if we'll try to help any way that we can, and if we can't, we'll put you in contact with someone that can.
Yeah. I think that's, I love having a network of people. And I've been in some business coaching, like not pet sitting related business coaching. So the coolest part about that is I've met, like branding experts and HR experts and, all of these, financial experts, fractional CFOs, all of these people. And it's like, gosh, if the pet sitter world knew that some of these, consultants existed, we could make a lot of difference because, we hear so many people in these groups who, the hardest part about being a business owner is, okay, do I want to grow and have a team, or do I want to grow and just have myself? Like, is it just going to be me or me and a partner, or, you and a friend or something? You want to keep it a little bit tighter, or do you want to have a whole full team? And that's a very strategic decision. And you and I both have a team, and it's like a whole other ball game. And you have to want to be a team manager. And if you don't want to do that, you guys, it's not worth it. if you don't, if you don't want to be a manager of people, don't, don't hire employees. Just keep doing what you're doing. Cause we talked about 2020 and like coming out of 2020, coming out of COVID, there were times where I was just like, is this worth it? Or should I burn it all to the ground and just, you know, um, because it's hard. It can be hard managing a team and getting the right people in the right places. And, something that we're going through right now is how it's like a chicken and the egg. To get more team members, you have to have more clients, but to get more clients, you also have to have more team members. And so that's kind of like we're in this like weird flux zone. And actually, for a year, we stopped taking on new clients. For basically all of 2022, we said we would add like a cat client here and there, like a guinea pig client or something, because that's a lot more flexible. But we said no more dog clients for basically a whole year. And now we're at the point again where we can start taking on more clients. But we were working so much and I was working so much. And I said, I can't be a team manager and be out walking dogs and pet sitting for as much as I was doing. And so we kind of scaled back and hired more people, and we got to a pretty good, comfortable spot. And now it's like, okay, now we can take on more clients again. But, I think one of the biggest problems with us as pet sitters is we tend to be empathic people and we tend to care for people, right? You wouldn't be in a caring business or a service-based business if you didn't care about people. And it's hard to say no. And, we got to the point where even one of my full-time team member is fantastic. And she does not have a problem telling me like it is. And she was like, you're missing stuff. because you are so like, you're overworking yourself and you're missing some really important things. And so I was like, yep, you're right, I am. And so it was a really intentional decision to kind of pull back a little bit. And that's really hard for a lot of people. And I'll just say too, as part of our story here, kind of our origin story in 2022, which was a long ways into our business, we had a really hard year. So not only was there the pandemic, right, and everything that came along with, the world kind of closing down. Um, we had to put our 2.5-year-old dog down for behavioral euthanasia reasons, which was awful. Do not recommend. We did, well, I should say first, my husband had a cousin that died in the summer. So like in July. In September, we had to put our dog down. In like 2 weeks later, we found out my husband had a bladder tumor. So we went into like cancer world for a little while. And then about a month and a half later, we had another family member die. And so
Oh
2020 was
no.
just a horrible year. It was not a good year. And so even though my husband was fine, we had surgery, got things taken care of, and that was kind of like the end of the cancer journey. It still hangs with you, just like that kind of impending doom that hangs around when you have to go back for rechecks and make sure everything is fine. We were still grieving the loss of our dog. All the world was all sorts of weird, and our business was still not doing great. And it was one of those moments where it's like, what? Like, life is not good right now. Life is very much not fun. Work is hard. And it was this moment of realizing that I needed to make a change. And that was about the time when I was like crying in driveways because I was so overwhelmed. Because at the same time, business was starting to pick up just a little bit. And I felt like I had to say yes to everything because I didn't know what was coming. Like, who knows when the next wave of COVID is going to come and shut everything down. So I've got to say yes to everybody right now, because what if they don't come, right? Like, what if the next month they're not here anymore and now we're broke again? So, like, I was saying yes to everything. And I had this moment where I was crying in my car in a client's driveway before I went into their house, because it was the end of the year and things were stressful. And I said to myself, like, I can't keep doing this. Like, this needs to be the pivotal moment where this is like, we're not turning back and we're going to make change. And 2021 was a lot better. 2022 was even better. But I really realized that we shouldn't have to have a catalyst moment in order for us to make change. Like, we shouldn't have to have, like, something horrible shouldn't have to happen to you or your family before you decide that it's worth it to make a change. Because I also realized, I'm like, okay, well, we were what, 30 something at the time, 31, and my husband got cancer, and that's not supposed, and it was like a weird cancer, like only like old men get. Like, you're supposed to be like in your 70s or your 80s before you get bladder cancer. Um and so I'm like, okay, well, who knows what's going to happen? Like, my dog is dead. Like, sorry, harsh language there. My dog is dead. My husband got cancer and people are dying. And I can either enjoy my life, like make changes and enjoy my life, because who knows what's going to happen next. And it's not worth it to live for someday in the future and say, okay, well, I'll be happy when, like, I'll be happy when I grow my business, or I'll be happy when I, you know, get more clients, or I'll be happy when we make some change. It's like, no, just let's make those changes now and be happy now, because who knows what's going to happen. So I kind of came up with we call our live full, live happy manifesto, because if we're not living a fulfilling, contented, happy life now, like, kind of what's the point?
So true. So true. And I think so many of us wait for that moment where we're crying in a client's driveway, and we shouldn't have to wait for that moment. We
Mhm.
shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you shouldn't have to wait for something terrible to happen, or, you to feel like you've hit the end of your rope. Like, you are worthy of making changes before you get to that point. Like, you shouldn't have to get to that point.
yeah, yeah. I've had several of those moments in my business on different decisions, and at the end of the day, it's our business and it's our life,
Mhm.
and if we're not going to make these decisions, then who will? And we
Yes.
only get one shot at this, so
Mhm.
we better go big or go home.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I try to mentor other pet sitters when they make these like comments about like, gosh, I'm just so busy. I'm so busy. You know, there will always be somebody who needs something from you, whether it's a family member, whether it's a client, a new client, or there are a million things that could use our attention at any given time. And so you can't possibly say yes to all of them. Like you would never sleep if you said yes to everything. And so you might as well say no to something because something will always keep coming. So getting used to saying no can be hard. And holding those boundaries can be hard, but it is so worth it. Like I went through cycles of burnout. Since I went to college, architecture school is very difficult. And I kind of went through these cycles up really until like 2020. And I finally said, I'm not doing it anymore. Like I refuse to put myself back in this position again. And it's totally worth it, you guys. It's worth it. You got to do it. And but sometimes we do have to feel that pain before we're willing to make a choice to do something different. But if you're willing to do it before, I highly recommend it. It's worth it.
Absolutely. Take it from us. We've both been there. We've both gone through the cycles of burnout, and we've both cried in clients' driveways more times than we would care to admit,
Mhm.
so take it from us.
Mhm.
Don't put yourself in that situation if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
And just like Morgan said, it's easier said than done. It is very difficult to tell a client no, especially when we're care providers, we're empathic people, we want to help, that's why we do what we do. And learning how and when to say no can be one of the most difficult parts of being a pet sitter and dog walker and being a small business owner.
Mhm.
And you have to learn it, though. You have to learn it, and you have to put boundaries in place. Don't answer your phone at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
Set office hours. Operate like a real business, and your clients will learn to respect that over time, and it'll save you so much heartache in the long run.
Mhm. I agree. And I had this chat with my vet because vet world is another world where it's very easy to over have your boundaries kind of pushed over and people saying, "Oh, well, you can fit it in," right? Like, "Oh, it's just a quick office visit. It's just a quick walk. It's just a quick cat visit. Like you can fit them in, right?" And she said that her phrase that she started to use is, well, if I did, I would not be giving you the best service. And I don't believe, or I believe that you deserve nothing best less than the best, right? Like if I say yes, like I'm not going to give you the best version of myself, and I don't want to do that. And so, so I learned to say no, like because sure, could I squeeze in another cat visit at like 11 p.m.? Sure, I could, but that's not going to be the best experience for my client. And it's probably going to be a worse experience than if they either found somebody else or they maybe if you have somebody who has flexible plans, you can say, "Hey, I can't do it here, but hey, if you can have me, I can come walk your dog tomorrow instead." They're going to get a much better version of me, and I want to give people the best version of myself, and that includes myself, includes my family, includes my own dogs. Because for so often my dogs weren't even getting walked because I was too busy walking other people's dogs, and I would come home and I would be exhausted. And I was like, "Sorry, dogs, I've walked other dogs all day, and I do not want to walk you when I get home." And that's also not fair. Like, or, it's not fair to myself if I don't get to go and do something fun or, I get to do a hobby because I'm too tired. Like that's again, it's not living a full life for ourselves.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is "You can't pour from an empty pot,"
Mhm.
and I think you hear that a lot, but you don't really understand it until your pot is empty. And
Mhm.
don't let your pot get empty. I have that quote on a sticky note on the wall of my office, and I look at it every day. Every time I
Mhm.
have to make a yes or no decision and decide whether or not I'm going to do something, I ask myself, how much is this going to take out of my pot? How much am I going to have left after this? Is it truly worth it? Yes,
Mhm.
I may need a little bit more revenue. Yes, I may really want to help these people. There's a million facets that go into it, but what is it going to leave me with at the end of the day?
Yeah. So true. And you mentioned sticky notes. I am also a sticky note fan. I've got a variety of them on my monitor over here. And the one I have a friend, my friend who's an HR consultant, she's amazing. Her favorite quote is, "Don't wear your toil as a badge of honor."
Ah, I love
Yeah,
that.
it's Courtney Underwood with Cassar Consulting. Give her a call. She's fantastic. But yeah, don't wear your. I mean, we hear that so often, and that doesn't. It's not just in the pet sitting industry. It's right, this hustle culture of like, I've been working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 3 years. It's like, well, but why are we proud of that? Like, shouldn't we be more proud of, hey, I've built my business in a way where I get a day off and I can take a vacation? To me, that's more impressive, right? Like, we shouldn't be praise like rewarding everybody for hustle culture. And I do believe that there are times we have to work harder than others. Like the holidays are one where we're going to be super busy through kind of Christmas into New Year's timeframe. But our November was like, kind of October was light, and then my January is going to be light. So I'm going to kind of buffer the really busy season. Whereas before I had no buffer, I would just work all the time. And we can still work really hard and work long hours, but we're going to do it for a short period of time. And we're going to have time to rest, because rest is not optional.
Yeah, yeah. So with all of this on your plate and so much going on, how and why did you start Memory Flame Candles?
It's a great question, Doug. And sometimes I ask myself that every time I have a new project. We have some other new projects coming, and I'm just like,
Ooh,
what am I doing? But it's all worth it and it's all fun. So yeah, so Memory Flame Candle Company. So I started because of Olive, who was our 2.5-year-old dog that we had to say goodbye to. And I was absolutely gutted because Olive's story was very sad. She was found in a pile of garbage, like literally a pile of garbage, as a 3-week-old puppy. And she eventually came to us, and we did everything we could. Like, she was, I think she was probably a genetic mess. And also, she had a horrible start in life, which, has its own effects. But she had medical issues. I mean, from day one that we got her, she had medical issues. And then as she got older, so she was a pitty. Let's see if I got a picture of her. Oh yeah, here she is. She's always close to me. So this is Miss Olive.
oh, look at that smile.
I know, the best. I love pitties so much.
Oh,
My cute little Olive. But she as dogs hit social maturity, their behaviors start to change a little bit, and they become more of who they're going to be. And when she started to hit kind of close to 2, we started seeing a lot of kind of problematic things with our other dogs in the house. But also, she was like paranoid. Like, by the end, she couldn't even go and do the things that she loved to do because she was too paranoid about them. It was very, very sad, on top of having all these medical issues. And so we made the really heart-wrenching decision to say goodbye. And it was terrible. I mean, she was like my project in a way, right? Like, our whole life was like revolving around keeping Olive happy and giving Olive a really good life. And then now that was gone. And, the thing people don't talk about with behavioral euthanasia a lot is that there's a lot of relief that can come with that, because a lot of that, like the challenge and the stress that is in your house, is no longer there. But at the same time, you're left with like this huge hole in your heart. And I was really, really struggling with my grief and trying to figure out how to move on in life without her here with us. And so I was like searching the internet and I was like, what do I do? And I came upon lighting remembrance candles. And at first, I'll be honest, like, truth moment, at first, I was like, this sounds like a hokey pile of poo. And like, there's no way this is going to actually make me feel better, because like my dog is dead and I can't, like, why is lighting a candle going to make me feel better? Well, short story is, it did. And I started feeling just a lot of like, every time I was sad, I would light my candle, or every time I was missing her, I would light my candle. And I just had a lot of peace and comfort that came from that. And I felt like I was actually doing something with my grief, and it helped me move through my grief a lot faster. So instead of just pretending like it didn't happen, or ignoring it, or not feeling those feelings, like, it gave me a moment to do that. I could pause in my day, remember her, remember some of the good times, light my candle, and it really helped me work through that. And I started giving them to our clients when our clients had a pet that passed away. And I'd give it to, like, my mom is one of my biggest customers, because she has friends who are, have a spouse who passed away or a family member who passed away. And I was like, I could make this into an actual business. Like this could actually help other people other than just my small little circle. And so Memory Flame Candles was born. And it's been really impactful. And the thing that I love the most about it is, at first when I started the candle business, I thought that most people be buying them for themselves. Like, I lost a pet, I'm going to buy myself a candle. But what it turned into is that almost every candle is bought for somebody else. And it's given as a gift. So whether it's, your friend is going through a hard time or your clients, we have a lot of pet sitters, again, we're in the pet sitting world. So we have a lot of pet sitters who are giving our candles to their clients. And it's been really impactful to hear what their clients are saying to them. And then they pass those things back on to us. Or my mom sends me, I'm a card keeper. So like my mom, if she gets a thank you card from somebody that she's given a candle to, she sends it on to me so I can see, how much those things mean to people. And I think one of the hardest things about grief is that nobody wants to talk about it because it's really uncomfortable. And on my little memory flame journey here, I'm finding that it's important to give space for those conversations. People don't like to talk about behavioral euthanasia because there's a lot of shame associated with it. Like, people feel like, oh, I should have tried harder, or there was something else I could have done, or, if only I decided to live like a hermit and all of my dogs have their own space and nobody ever interacts. Like, if I had just done that, everything would have been fine. But again, there's a lot of shame with that. And so people don't talk about it. And so I try to help create space to talk about it. And I feel like grief of anything is kind of the same way, because, people will think of you in the first couple days, or, the first couple weeks, and then your grief continues on, but everyone else has, kind of moved on with their life, because we can't all be sad for everybody all of the time. Right. And so just really helping people understand that it's okay to be sad. And most people grieve a close loss for, like 9 to 18 months. So it's okay if 6 months later you're still really sad. Like, it's okay. And just helping people understand, like, it's okay to check in on other people. Because just because they're not talking about their loss doesn't mean that they're not still feeling their loss.
Yeah, yeah. And, we've ordered several memory flame candles for our clients now. And over the years, we've tried different little gifts, cards, and flowers, and different things. And they were all good. But, I had never gotten a call from a client actually in tears. And one of the last pups that you sent a candle to, one of our clients, he called us just absolutely beside himself. He couldn't even collect himself, and I want to cry just thinking
I'm
about it,
going to cry
and
thinking about it too.
it's like, but it shows just how powerful and how meaningful what you're doing is,
Mhm.
and who would have thought that a candle could be that meaningful? But I think
Mhm.
what you're doing is beautiful. I mean, it's inspiring, and you're so right that grief does stick with you, and it is okay to feel that grief later on, and having this candle that you can light, when you're feeling that grief and you're thinking about your pet, it's a physical, beautiful uh representation of that love and everything involved. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, just thank you for starting Memory Flame. I know you have a lot on your plate. I know it's probably a little stressful to try to run a candle company on top of all of your other stuff, but thank
Mhm.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I say it's very bittersweet. Like, I'm so thankful that we can help, but it's also so sad because every time you send a candle, you know that somebody's really hurting. And let's see if I have one. Oh, here's my it has just like our standard label on it. But what we can also do is put a custom name. So we print our own labels as well and put a custom name on it. So when a client, you can put like the client's pet on there, or and we do it for pets and people. So all of our language is around a loved one, because we recognize that, a loved one could be anyone. We've had people send a candle to like their friend who had a miscarriage, right? Like, that's, a lot of like those things can be unvalidated loss. Like it's not something that gets talked about a lot or gets recognized as being really impactful. And so we just use very, kind of broad language. It's very universal language. And so they work for a lot of occasions, but there is something to be said when I walk into my own clients' houses and I see a candle that we sent them, like on the mantle or next to a picture of their pet. It does tell you that it's meant something, and we had a local groomer who said, gosh, I normally send flowers, but flowers only last a few days, and I can send this candle and it's going to sit there forever. And I think, also from like the business owner standpoint, your client's going to remember you and remember that, like, how much, like, there's a physical representation of how much you care about them and how much you cared about their pet, and it's going to sit there on their shelf. And when they look at it, like, obviously they're going to think about their pets, but they're also going to think about how much you cared about them. And I think that's really important when we think about as being a professional industry. I think it can be hard sometimes to show our clients how much they mean to us, and that's both the people and the pets. And it can be really hard to really kind of verbalize that or to show that. And so when you send something like a candle, or it could be anything, it could be a well written card to say, gosh, your pet meant so much to us, I'm going to miss this about her, and we're thinking of you. Even that alone can just really help people, but there is something kind of special about the candles.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, in everything that you're doing with Lucky Pup and with Memory Flame just shows in your award for 2022 Pet Sitter of the Year. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's the thing. It was a lot. It was a lot of fun. Like 2020 was a very fun year for us.
So what has that meant for you, both personally and for your business, to be named as the Pet Sitter of the Year by Pet Sitters International?
Yeah, it was a huge honor. I know everyone says that, right? Oh, it's such an honor to be to even be nominated, and it really was. Or to make it to the top 5, that was a huge honor. And then to find out that we won, I was just like, it was almost surreal in a way, because it was like, oh my gosh, like I was actually chosen. You never think about, like, you submit for something, you don't necessarily think like, oh yeah, I've like, it's totally gonna be me, right? You never think that when you submit, because there are so many amazing people in our industry and amazing business owners in our industry. But what I really loved was that I'd been thinking about some of these themes around burnout and living a full life, and it kind of all coalesced around when I submitted to be Pet Sitter of the Year. And when you submit, they ask you questions like, well, what would you want to talk about this year? Like, what's the cause that you want to champion? And it really just what gave me an opportunity to really firm up and kind of put words to all these things I've been thinking about. And so I've gotten to give several presentations to PSI members at conferences and through webinars and things like that. And it's been an amazing way to give back to an industry that I do care so much about. And so that was a lot of fun, and I got to meet so many amazing people. And like I would have met those people probably anyway, but people, when you get to be called the Pet Sitter of the Year, people come up to you and like they want to congratulate you. And so I got to meet a lot of people that I probably otherwise wouldn't. And that was also a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. I remember being in Texas, and when I heard that you were the Pet Sitter of the Year, I was like, I have to talk to her.
I was like, and yeah, it was also a good like way to break into conversations, because like I am fairly extroverted, but I'm an introvert at heart. And so um it was a good way for me to be like forced to talk to a lot of people. And it was like a conversation starter too, to be like, hey, my name is Morgan and you may have seen me on the cover of the PSI magazine. And people go, oh yeah, I did see you. And it's just like another way to break into a conversation. Not like you need that as like a reason to have a conversation with somebody, but it definitely did not hurt.
Do you think that it's kind of has it given like your business kind of a leg up, or do you think it's kind of changed your perception on the industry and your goals moving forward?
Yeah, so I would say, well, and the hard part too is we weren't accepting new clients for all of 2020. And so I didn't I didn't do a whole lot in my local community to advertise it just because I was like, I can't take on new business anyway. So I didn't use it as like a way to say like, hey, we are, we were number one, business owner in in the pet sitting world. I mean, I definitely I put it like on our website and it's in our email and things like that. Um, but I do think it helps add clout, and just it gives, I think, additional professionalism to the industry as a whole. And that was one thing that I really liked the opportunity to use it as is like, hey, like this is a true business. This is a true industry. And there are true professionals who are dedicating their work life to this. And so I was really hoping to also just kind of lift all pet sitters, right? Like the more we can professionalize and the more that we can, legitimize this industry to the vast majority of people who own pets, the better we're all going to be. And there's just so many people who don't even think about hiring a pet sitter, right? They think about hiring their neighbor kid or having a friend come over. But we also get a lot of people who say, hey, I had somebody who was supposed to come over and I got a call yesterday and it's 10 days before Christmas and they said, hey, I had somebody who was supposed to live in my house for for 4 days and they just backed out and now it's 10 days before Christmas and they leave sometime next week and they're just like, I don't know what we're going to do. And so the nice thing about working for with a professional is, yeah, it's probably going to cost you more than the kid down the street or your neighbor who's just going to stop in and do you a favor. But you get a solid commitment out of us, right? Like when you book with me, you are on my calendar and the only reason I'm not going to show up is like if there is a tornado coming down on me or we're in a raging blizzard and I just literally cannot leave my house. Like we are committed to you and to your pets. And we get a lot of people, and I'm sure you do too, who call and say like, hey, somebody was supposed to come over and it's not happening. And that's really stressful. And, one thing that we like to do too is just provide a lot of peace to our clients to know that when we come over, like we're going to take care of you. Like, you don't have to worry. You can go and book your trip. You don't have to cancel your trip last minute because, somebody canceled on you and now you have no one to watch your pets. And so you can't go to vacation or you can't go visit your family or do whatever you're going to go do.
Yeah, yeah. We get those calls all the time. Now, as someone that has two successful businesses and has been pet sitter of the year and just has so many amazing things going on, what's next?
Yes. So again, there's been a lot of things. I'm the kind of person where I want to think about things for a long time. So like I've been kind of processing on some different things we've wanted to do. And I'll say one I can tell you more specifics about, and one is still kind of a secret. We're still working on the details. So that'll come
Ooh,
hopefully first quarter. So like February, March, we'll see, of 2023.
exciting.
Very exciting. But the other one is we really want to start doing more business consulting and like business help with people because it's very hard to run a business. Like being a pet sitter is the easy part. Like even though visiting pets can still be a challenge, like not to minimize that aspect of it at all, but like the running a successful business part is really challenging. And I feel like we have an interesting perspective, again, kind of like this live full, live happy perspective. And I believe that businesses are really holistic, and this idea that you have like a business life or a work life and a personal life, when you're a business owner, that gets very, very fuzzy and they very much impact each other. And so I get really frustrated because I'm an empath, and I get frustrated because there are so many people out there who want a business that makes them happy and they have a business that makes them very frustrated, or it makes them, it makes life a lot harder and they don't get to go and enjoy and do the fun things. And so I want to take, like you said, a lot of the pain points and the lessons that I've learned over the years. You and I we're headed into year 10 in 2023, which is kind of
Yeah.
insane to think about. And yeah, I've learned a lot of stuff and I want to be able to share that with people in a way that they can actually like implement, right? Not just like, oh, hey, you should maybe work on your finances or you should work on your team or whatever. Like, what are your actual objectives in your own business? What are your objectives in your life? And how can we help you make that work together?
Wow, that's exciting. That is
Thank
exciting.
you. I'm
What,
excited.
are you gonna be doing, like, one-on-one, consulting calls? Are you putting together a course? Can you tell us kinda what this is gonna look like?
It's a good question, Doug. I think at the beginning, we're going to start with like one-on-one consulting. But I've got some ideas and some things that I think that can grow into. But you always have to this is this is the lesson for other pet sitters out there. Whenever you add something, you've got to test it, right? You've got to see and make sure that it works and make sure that um it's something that you actually want to do. I've in the pandemic, I started making dog treats because I love baking. And that was like one way for our clients to support us, right? Like, I'm not coming to watch their dog, but they can buy dog treats from us. And the dog treats are really good. Like they are very popular. But I was like, man, do I really want to be doing this? Like, do I want to create this into its own side business and like keep doing it? And the answer is, gosh, it takes a lot of time. And I don't know, I wasn't like super like I want to do this all the time. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it kind of occasionally when it works for our schedule and kind of around holidays and things like that. So I tested the market, tested it for about a year, tested my own enjoyment of it. Like, I believe that business owners especially need to be comfortable with experimenting, because you're going to try things and it's not going to work. You're going to try something a different way to do it. And so yeah, so we're going to do a little experimenting. But I will say too, when you experiment, that doesn't mean you're not serious about it, right? Like, you can experiment in a very serious way, while still testing it out and making sure it works. And yeah, making sure you can build your own full and happy life while you're doing it. So yeah, that's what we're going to try doing. And I've got an idea for if it goes over, like I'm hoping it goes over, and like I think it will. I've got some other ideas coming because I do think that there's a lot a lot of learning that we can do on the business side of being a business owner. And it's, I think, the part that makes or breaks people as business owners. Like, it makes me so sad when somebody absolutely loves their business and and by business, I mean like they love what they do, but they feel like they can't do it anymore because they are totally burnt out and it's just sucking all of the life out of their life. And I think that we can do things to help make it better. So I want people to love their businesses.
I am so excited about this. This is gonna be awesome. I can't imagine anyone, better to learn from than you.
Oh,
So,
well, thank you, Doug.
do you have any kind of, where can we go to find out more about this?
Yes, thank you for asking the question, Doug. So Lucky Pup Living. So our pet sitting business is Lucky Pup Adventures, and then kind of our the other side of that is Lucky Pup Living. So we have actually have a course on there for business or for pet owners as well. We have a blog with a bunch of resources for pet owners, and then we're also then building out kind of the pet business side of that as well.
Oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. For everyone watching, I will put the information on the screen and I'll put the link down in the description below so you can click and go straight to the page.
Super.
Um, to close us out, what is your number one piece of advice that you wish all pet sitters and dog walkers could hear?
Oh my gosh. Okay. How about two? Can I give two?
Okay.
So, and it's also going to be wrapped into books because Doug, you know that I love books.
Yes.
And so the first one is that I think, to run a business, you have to get the financial part of your business running well as well. Because if you can't, like you said, if you can't keep the lights on, that's a problem. And so my first, like the first book I would ever recommend to anyone who wants to be a business owner, is Profit First. And it's a
Oh,
really
that's a
fantastic. I love that book so much.
life
And I know
changing.
it is life. It truly, like, I don't throw that, phrase around kind of flippantly. Like, it truly is life changing. It's like the envelope system for your business, but it's like the best way to understand how the financials of your business work. Especially, the nice part about our business is that we do work and we get paid for the work, right? It's not like some other businesses, and not like my candle business where I'm putting a lot of effort into like growing the business, and then you may or may not sell a candle, right? And so like it's very much like you go to work, you walk a dog, and you get paid to walk that dog. So it helps make setting up the financials a lot easier if you understand how that cash needs to flow through your business. So that'd be the number one. And then the other one is just, you have to learn how to deal with all the sucks in life. And, there's going to be times where business is going to be really hard or your life is going to be really hard. And if you can find, like, and I don't want to say the good side of it because I don't believe in toxic positivity, but you have to find a way to say, okay, but yeah, it kind of sucks right now, but like look at where we were and look at how far we've come, and like, and it's going to be okay. And I know that this is a season and I can work through it and I can make changes to make it better. And I think we are again laying that experimenting. Like it's okay to experiment and it's okay to try something different and to try to um if you're not happy with something, do something different. And, that can just be a change. It could be a policy change. It could be hiring a team member. It could be getting rid of all of your team members, like whatever that needs to be for you. Try it out, because what's the worst that can happen? Like if you're already not happy, I mean, you'll get what, maybe a little bit less happy, but the other side is you're going to get happier, right? Like it's worth trying. So, you don't feel like you have to be stuck somewhere.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you for everything that you've bestowed upon us today, for your great advice and everything. And for everyone that wants to get in contact with you and learn more about everything that you're doing, what would be the best way to do that?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram at underscore Lucky Pup. So I love hanging out on Instagram. Our website, luckypupliving.com. And then there's a contact form on Lucky Pup Living. So you can reach out to us that way as well.
Perfect. And again, I will put all the information on the screen. I'll have the links down in the description below. And for anyone that is not subscribed to the channel, please remember to smash that subscribe button and share this video with anyone and everyone in the pet industry that could really benefit from everything that Morgan is talking about here. And thank you so much for taking the time, Morgan.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you, Doug. And I'll say congratulations to you on being the 2023 Pet Sitter of the Year. We didn't talk about that at all. And I feel like we should have. And I'm so excited to see what you do, because, each of us have our own ways of doing things. And I'm just really excited to see what you decide to champion for this next year. And I know that you're going to do a fantastic job because you are a fantastic human. So I'm really excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you left some big shoes to fill. So
And like I said, when you first got it, I was like, I knew you could do it, Doug. And yeah, I'm just really excited because that you have such a way about helping people, and and getting the message of being our pet sitting industry out into the public. And the success of this channel and all that you're doing, I think, is really evident, and you're doing some really awesome things for the industry and for your own business. And yeah, I'm just really excited for you.
thank you. Thank you. It really is such an honor, just like you said. And I feel cheesy saying that, but it's so true, and I never, ever dreamed that I would be Pet Sitter of the Year one year. And it really is all thanks to you, from your incessant nudges,
I was
you
getting
know?
a little bit obnoxious, but I believed that you needed to get your name in the hat. So
Well, thank you. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. And I'm Doug the Dog Guy, reminding you to stay positive.
see you later.